Sometimes, the most terrifying screams don't come from monsters, but from a human being begging for release. This isn't a line from a horror movie. It's a real sound, captured in 42 audio tapes, from the most chilling exorcism case in modern history. The true story that inspired the exorcism of Emily Rose. Today, you're about to step into the real case file of Anneliese Michel, a 3-year-old girl raised in strict Catholic faith, who faced horrors that no doctor, no priest, and no living person could save her from. Knocking on the walls late at night, voices damning her to hell, wounds appearing on their own, and 67 exorcism sessions stretched all the way to her final breath. If you think this was just another medical condition, watch until the end, because some details defy anything science can explain. I don't remember how long I stood in that room. Everything felt buried in a thick, unmoving block of time without a beginning and without an end. All I knew was that my own breathing sounded like someone gasping for their final seconds, broken and trembling, and my legs no longer felt like they belonged to me, as if I was standing on real ground, but my soul had already stepped far beyond the boundary of safety. The tall figure in front of me was still there, towering unnaturally, as if its body didn't follow any human anatomical rules. Its head tilted to one side, the angle so extreme that a human neck would have snapped long ago, yet it held that posture deliberately, mockingly, taunting me. Every time it moved, a dry cracking noise came from within it, tightening my chest like branches breaking, but slow enough that every fiber could be heard. I didn't dare look down. I didn't dare look around. My body trembled violently, but fear rooted me in place. The tiny hand gripping my ankle still hadn't let go. It was cold, damp, and disturbingly soft, like the hand of a child that had just crawled out of water, still carrying the stench of rotting mud. That softness repulsed me, but what truly drove me to the edge of madness was the feeling that the hand wasn't pulling. It was examining me. It slid across my skin, inch by inch, as if studying my structure, as if checking whether I could replace something. Sweat streamed down my face, dripping to the corner of my lips, salty and metallic. I heard my heartbeat pounding so violently I thought it would burst out of my chest. I once believed that humans would eventually get used to fear if exposed to it long enough. But now, I understood how wrong I was. Fear doesn't fade. It gathers, thickens, compresses inside the chest until the slightest spark is enough to make you scream or faint on the spot. But I couldn't scream. I couldn't run. I didn't even dare breathe too hard, because those two voices were still behind me so close I could feel their breaths on the back of my neck. One old, clogged, like someone strangled for too long. One younger, sharp, warped like a person pulled from the water far too late. Both voices said the same thing, though I couldn't tell if they were speaking to me or speaking to each other. Suddenly, the tall figure in front of me took a single step. Just one. But its stride was so long that it felt like it wasn't stepping forward. It was pulling the space between us together. I flinched backward instinctively, but the small hand at my ankle tightened as if warning me. Not painfully, but cold. Too cold. A coldness that pierced through the skin, into the bone marrow, hollowing me out from within. I froze immediately. The tall figure tilted its head even further, and I heard the rush of blood fill my ears as its bones made a deliberate bending sound. Its head rotated until it was nearly upside down, its face still swallowed in shadow, revealing nothing. But I knew one thing for certain. It was looking at me. Not like how humans look at each other, but like something that had never known the existence of a soul, only the act of dissecting, separating, and fitting into the empty spaces of this room. Things that used to be human, as if deciding whether I could replace someone who had been here before. A sound came from the mirror again. This time, not knocking, but breathing. The surface of the mirror pulsed, its cracks shifting with each inhale, like something gigantic was pressing its face against the other side. Every time it inhaled, the cold air of the room was sucked toward it. Every time it exhaled, a foggy breath coated the glass, only to vanish instantly, too cold to linger. Then I heard scraping, soft, slow, long, like nails dragging across the inside of the mirror. I tried to blink, to shut my eyes, but I couldn't. My eyelids trembled uncontrollably, refusing to close, like someone was holding them open with invisible threads. Only then did I realize I no longer controlled my body. The weak breaths behind me moved even closer, brushing directly against my ear. This time, the younger voice spoke first, distorted, stretched, sticky like wet silk. "Don't look at it." Then the older voice, dry and rasping like wind blowing through a corpse. "If you look, it will replace you." It felt like my neck was being gently pulled to one side, though no one was touching me, just a subtle, steady force trying to turn my head toward the tall figure. I struggled to stay upright, my mind spinning. Then the tiny hand beneath the bed began pulling, not hard, not urgent, but certain, as if tugging me toward the underside of the bed, where the darkness pooled like an open mouth. I tried to lift my foot, but my back had stiffened. Every muscle from my nape down my spine froze solid. My whole body could only sway, unable to move forward or backward. The musty smell from under the bed rose sharply, mixed with mud and something like meat soaked too long in water. The tall figure took another step. Each time it neared, the air compressed, as if its presence consumed too much space. It was too large, too heavy, too wrong for such a small room. I felt like the smallest thing here, caught between three pressures: the shadow in front of me, the thing behind me, and the hand under the bed. I didn't know which one would claim me first. The mirror suddenly grew violent, scratching, cracking, pounding. The glass no longer pulsed, it began bulging, pushing outward like a thin membrane stretched from within. I saw the outline of a hand pressing against the glass. From the inside, it didn't look human. The fingers were too long, curved unnaturally, bones exposed, black blood spreading along the cracks. Then, slowly, the hand pushed through the mirror, as if the surface were only water. One finger, two, three. The room filled with the screech of breaking glass, but none of it fell. Every shard hung in the air, suspended by an invisible force. And I realized something horrifying. The mirror wasn't breaking. Something was coming out. I watched as its head emerged, elongated, sharp, distorted by the very space it crawled through. A pitch-black eye appeared first. No sclera, just a bottomless void. I couldn't look away. Its gaze pulled me in. My neck bent slightly left, then right, as though someone tested how far it could twist before snapping. The hand under the bed tightened. The old voice snarled, "Don't let it see you." The young one hissed, steaming with wet distortion, "Slowly, it will take you." I wanted to scream, but no sound came out, only violent trembling. The tall figure suddenly jerked its body, twitching in segments, like being controlled by strings from within. Its joints turned the wrong way, its head rotating backward while the body stayed rigid. It turned its head completely around, facing the mirror, facing the thing emerging, and it bent its body as if ready to lunge. But at that moment, the breathing behind me stopped completely. A third voice spoke, not old, not young, not human. It whispered right behind me, so close it grazed my spine. "Don't turn around, because I'm right behind you." The room collapsed into complete darkness, even though it had barely any light to begin with. I heard only my heartbeat, and the hand under the bed pulling harder. Suddenly, a deafening knock resounded. From inside the mirror, thud. All three voices behind me fell silent. Thud. The tall figure froze. Thud. Then a voice spoke from inside the mirror. Slow, deep, drowned like something speaking from beneath black water. "It's your turn." The hand at my ankle yanked so hard I fell forward, slamming my chin onto the floor. Pain shot up through my jaw, but I couldn't respond. The stench of rot rushed into my face as the underside of the bed widened like a gaping mouth. The tall figure lunged. The thing in the mirror pushed halfway out. And behind me, something stood so close I heard its bones shifting. I understood then. I didn't have many choices left. Not choices to escape, but choices of which one would take me first. I raised my hand, maybe to resist. But a familiar voice spoke inside my mind. Not the three, not my own. Soft, warm, and filled with sorrow. "Why did you come back to this room?" I froze completely. It was my mother's voice. She'd been dead for 3 years. The space beneath the bed widened. The tall shadow reached out. The thing in the mirror extended its claws. All three looked at me, As if I hadn't just trespassed into this room. I had violated an ancient rule that was never meant to be broken. A rule my mother told me when I was a child. No matter what you hear at night, you must always keep this door closed. Never open it. The door I forgot to close was now slowly swinging shut behind me. On its own, I froze in place. My breath caught in my throat, burning and raw, completely opposite to the icy air pressing against my skin. Every sound in the room seemed to be swallowed whole, leaving behind a suffocating silence so thick I could hear every frantic beat of my heart pounding like a drum inside a sealed bunker. That voice from a moment ago, it wasn't a hallucination. It was too clear, each word etched sharply into my mind. Don't open the door. A low, raspy voice, dragging slightly at the end of the sentence, as if whoever spoke was trying to hold their breath to avoid being noticed. But the biggest problem wasn't where the voice came from. The real problem was, I was supposed to be alone in this room. Or, at least I thought so. I forced myself to glance at the wardrobe, where the darkness inside looked almost solid, thick, unmoving, like something alive trying to mimic the shape of a shadow. Whatever was inside didn't move. It didn't breathe. But I could feel it illogical, unreasonable, and yet undeniable. It was aware of me. Aware that I was looking at it. A heavy, suffocating sensation of being watched crawled across my spine, raising every hair along my neck. My body screamed at me to run, but my legs were stiff, frozen as if locked in place with blocks of ice. Behind me, the bedroom door was still vibrating slightly from the violent pounding earlier. The shaking was subtle, barely visible, but deep enough for my bones to register the residual tremor, which meant whatever was outside the hallway was still there. One threat standing in the wardrobe. One threat waiting right outside the door. And I was trapped between them. I tried to focus, to listen closely. Any tiny sound might mean the difference between living and dying. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. Nothing. No more knocks. No footsteps retreating. No dragging. No groaning. Just silence. But silence can be worse than noise. The quiet in the wardrobe was even more disturbing. The thing inside didn't move, but its presence pressed against the room like an invisible weight, just like standing before a mirror and sensing someone behind it, unseen, but undeniably there. I swallowed hard, but my throat was so dry it felt like swallowing gravel. I knew I needed to decide what would kill me first. If I opened the door, whatever was in the hallway would be waiting. If I stayed here, the thing in the wardrobe wouldn't tolerate me much longer. I glanced at my phone. No signal. I looked at the wall clock. The second hand was frozen, even though it had been ticking minutes earlier. I looked at the ceiling lights. The warm yellow glow flickered with each pulse, like the bulb was breathing. This room was no longer behaving like a normal room. I breathed in, ready to step back toward the balcony, but then, creak, the wardrobe hinge stirred. I didn't even have time to flinch. My whole body locked up. The wardrobe door opened exactly 1 centimeter. Just enough to notice. Just enough to confirm it wasn't an accident. No wind. No draft. Windows sealed completely. There was no way it opened by itself. Inside the wardrobe, the darkness deepened like someone inside had shifted, withdrawing farther into the shadows, or stepping closer to the edge so they could see me better. I backed away, instinctively. Each step took me farther from the wardrobe, but closer to the bedroom door where the other thing waited. I had to choose. I had to. Thud. The door was struck again. Harder. The entire frame rattled. The wood groaned, splintering under the pressure, like something outside could break it open at any moment. My breathing quickened. Sweat slid down my palms and spine. I spun toward the door, pressing my back against the wall, too terrified to move. Then, a long dragging sound scraped against the hallway floor outside. Sure. Slow. Heavy. As if someone, or something, was dragging a long weight, or their own body, across the tiles. The sound stopped right outside my bedroom door. A faint whisper seeped through the gap beneath it. Oh, pen. It. I clamped my hand over my mouth, refusing to make the smallest breath. If it heard me, it would know I was right behind the door. It would hit harder. It would get in. I stood frozen for several endless seconds, not daring to turn toward the wardrobe, not daring to look away from the door. Outside, the dragging sound stopped completely. No footsteps leaving. No breathing. No sign it had gone. Something was standing right outside the door, listening. I slowly backed away, careful not to make a sound. From the wardrobe came a faint metallic click, the sound of a hanger brushing against another. Impossible. 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 I turned. The wardrobe door had opened wider, now wide enough to clearly see the hanging clothes inside. But on the right side, where the shadows were thickest, I saw a faint, human-like shape. Tall, thin, head bowed, arms longer than they should be. My stomach turned. I couldn't scream. My voice simply died. A soft sound seeped from within the wardrobe. A breath, slow, wet, as if passing through a chest that wasn't fully intact. I stumbled back too fast, hitting the table with a loud clack. That was when everything erupted at once. Outside the door, bang, bang, bang. The thing in the hallway pounded relentlessly, shaking the entire room. Inside the wardrobe, the tall figure twitched. Then again. Then it started, stepping out. I ran. No thinking, no plan, no sanity. Pure instinct tore through me as I sprinted toward the balcony. I threw open the balcony door. Cold night air slapped my face. The dampness jolted clarity back into my panic. Then reality hit me. I was on the 5th floor. I couldn't jump. If I did, I would die instantly. Behind me, the wardrobe door slammed fully open, a deafening crack as it hit the wall. I didn't dare turn around, but I knew it had stepped out of the wardrobe. I backed against the balcony railing, gripping the freezing metal. Inside the room, the ceiling lights flickered violently. The bedroom door trembled under another barrage of hits, weak but furious. From inside, the creature's footsteps began. Thud. Slow, heavy, dragging something with every step, like skin scraping against tile. Thud. It was getting closer. So close. My vision flickered. My knees nearly buckled. And then, the lights went out. Total darkness. No room. No shapes. Just suffocating blackness. I stood on the balcony, unable to hear anything now. No pounding on the door. No footsteps. No breathing. No dragging. Just silence. I didn't know which was worse. That it was standing still, watching me from the dark. Or that it had crawled onto the balcony, right behind me. I held my breath, and then an icy finger rested on my shoulder. A freezing hand pressed down on my shoulder, and my entire body locked up, as if all my veins had been replaced with ice in a single heartbeat. I didn't dare turn around, didn't dare move, didn't even dare breathe too strongly. In that moment, I realized my body was no longer mine. It had become a corpse standing upright under the touch of something I couldn't understand, couldn't see, but was certain was standing right behind me. That coldness wasn't the kind that came from night air, nor the chill of metal. It was the cold of something not alive, something without blood, something that didn't fit into any biological logic I'd ever known. It was the cold of frozen time itself, as if that hand had once belonged to a world without breath. I heard it, a slow inhale, right behind my neck. A breath without warmth. A breath that wasn't human. I was standing at the edge of the balcony on the 5th floor. One more step, and I would fall straight into the darkness below. No one could see me. No one would hear me, even if I screamed. No one would know I was dying of fear in a building everyone whispered was unclean. Its voice rose behind my neck so soft it felt like a passing breeze, yet each syllable burrowed into my spine until it froze solid. Stay still. I jolted, not because of the voice, but because it repeated exactly the same words as the voice I'd heard inside the wardrobe earlier, which meant the thing behind me and the thing in the wardrobe were the same. Then what was the thing beating on the hallway door? How many entities were in the room with me? My throat tightened so hard I couldn't make a sound. I wanted to scream, cry, beg, but my body was bound by something invisible, a rope woven from thick, suffocating darkness. A slight tug pulled at my shoulder, slow and gentle, but growing more certain with each second, as if it didn't want to startle me, as if it only wanted me to obediently turn and face it. I used every shred of strength in my legs to resist the pull, but it felt like pushing against an invisible current. The hand on my shoulder tightened not enough to cause pain, but enough to tell me one terrifying truth. I couldn't win. I wanted to cry. but the tears wouldn't come. Only short, broken breaths escaped me. Then suddenly, it spoke again, the same low, raspy voice, but clearer this time, whispering directly into my ear. "Don't look down." I didn't understand, but instinct pushed me to do the exact opposite. I lowered my eyes over the balcony railing. I froze. Down in the courtyard, in the darkest patch between the buildings, a figure stood perfectly still, looking straight up at me. No lamp, no moonlight, no shadow, no defined features. Only two faint, glowing eyes drilling into my chest like they could carve me open. It didn't move, at all. But from one single glance, I knew it wasn't human. And just as my body trembled at the sight of the thing below, the hand behind me yanked me backward. I spun around, nearly collapsing onto the balcony floor. But the thing behind me was gone. The balcony was empty. The room behind me was pitch black, like the mouth of a cave. No sound, no breath, no shadow. I wanted to believe the hand had been a hallucination, but my shoulder still carried 5 icy spots, as if those fingers were still pressing into me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, and stepped into the room. The faint light from outside barely illuminated the overlapping chunks of darkness inside. And the moment I placed one foot inside, the wardrobe door slammed shut. The bang was so loud I stumbled backward, almost falling off the balcony again. I squinted into the dark but saw nothing. Only the wardrobe standing still, silent, pretending nothing had happened. But I knew it had been open. I had seen it open. I had seen what was inside. I had heard it breathe. I took a few steps back until my spine touched the balcony railing once more. The room remained drowned in darkness. Then, a small sound came from under the bed. Click. I held my breath. The sound continued, dragging, like something crawling out of a tight space. Click, click, click. A faint wheezing emerged, like someone trying to hold back pain or suppress a cough. I snapped my head to the left. A hand. No, not a hand, an arm, long, thin, bruised purple, crawled out from beneath the bed. It slid out slowly. Each wrist bone cracked as it moved. The fingers were long like tree roots. The nails were black and unnaturally sharp. The arm dug into the floor, pulling something heavy behind it. A second arm followed. And then, the head. A pale face, untouched by light. Eye sockets so deep I couldn't tell where the pupils were. A jaw completely misaligned, bent sideways as if broken. It crawled out like a starving animal, tilting its head at an impossible angle, staring at me. I wanted to run. I desperately wanted to run. But my legs refused to obey. Its long neck twisted unnaturally as it raised its head. Then its mouth opened wide. Far too wide, like its face was tearing apart. There were no teeth, only a cavern of darkness. The sound that emerged wasn't human, wasn't animal. It was something that could only come from a throat that wasn't intact. "Don't look down." I froze. It repeated the same words, the same warning from the balcony, the same phrase the cold hand had spoken. But why? If it wanted to kill me, why warn me? I collapsed to my knees, pressing myself into the corner of the balcony. My heart thrashed violently. The thing crawled further into the room, bones cracking loudly as if being stretched beyond their limit. It stopped in the middle of the room, lifted its head, and looked past me toward the bedroom door. The door was open, just a crack. I hadn't opened it. I was certain I hadn't. The crack widened, slowly, gently, as if someone outside were lightly pushing it. No banging, no dragging sounds, only suffocating silence. The creature under the bed stared at the door, not at me anymore. It trembled, as if it were scared. A whisper seeped into the room through the open door. A completely different voice, higher, sharper, cold as a blade slicing the inside of my ear. "Come out." The thing under the bed curled up, as if hiding, as if begging. And I understood something horrifying. The creature under the bed was not the most dangerous thing in the room. The door opened wider, centimeter by centimeter. A tall, elongated shadow stood behind it, slowly revealing its shape. I gripped the balcony railing so hard my nails hurt. I had no plan, only raw instinct, screaming inside my skull. The figure stepped out of the darkness, but I couldn't see its face, only its long, unnatural legs catching the faint light. Every step made the tiles vibrate. The creature under the bed began shaking violently. Then, it turned its head toward me one last time. Not hateful, not threatening, but warning. It opened its mouth, no sound coming out, but I could read its lips clearly. Run. I didn't think. Didn't hesitate. I climbed over the balcony railing and jumped. The wind roared past my ears, stretching the fall into an eternity. I didn't know if I'd survive, but I knew one thing. Dying from the fall would be better than dying in that room. As I plummeted, I looked up. On my balcony, two figures stood side by side, staring down at me. One tall, one small. One thin, one twisted. Neither moved. And then, everything went black. The story of Anneliese Michel remains one of the most ambiguous cases at the intersection of religion, spirituality, and modern science. What she went through, from unexplained seizures and bizarre hallucinations to extreme behavior and physical deterioration, has raised a haunting question for decades. What truly led to her death? From the religious perspective, Anneliese's symptoms matched many descriptions found in documented cases of demonic possession: unnatural strength, distorted voices, aversion to holy objects, and knowledge she could not have naturally acquired. Meanwhile, the medical community insisted she suffered from severe mental illness, combined with neurological issues, and that the cessation of treatment, the withdrawal of medical supervision, and the repeated 67 exorcism sessions were what pushed her body beyond its limit. Regardless of which side one takes, one fact remains undeniable. Anneliese Michel died in both physical and psychological agony, without anyone truly being able to help her. Her case is a profound tragedy, one where faith and medical science failed to meet in the middle, resulting in the heartbreaking death of a 2-3-year-old girl. Personal reflection and lessons learned. I believe the deepest lesson from this case is this: never ignore the troubling signals of the mind and body, and never let extremism on any side lead us to disaster. Faith is important, but so is medicine. If both had worked together, perhaps things could have turned out very differently. In today's world, every one of us, no matter how strong, has moments of fear, confusion, or psychological crisis that we cannot overcome alone. What matters is knowing when to seek help and understanding that caring for one's mental health is not a sign of weakness, but one of courage. Question for you: what do you think was the primary cause of Anneliese's death? Medical illness, religious belief, or a combination of both? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this content valuable and want me to cover more mysterious, paranormal, and horror-related cases, don't forget to subscribe to support the channel.